More about prayer. For days after the discourse on prayer, the apostles continued to ask the Master questions regarding this all-important and worshipful practice. Jesus' instruction to the apostles during these days regarding prayer and worship may be summarized and restated in modern phraseology as follows. The earnest and longing repetition of any petition, when such a prayer is a sincere expression of a child of God and is uttered in faith, no matter how ill-advised, or impossible of direct answer, never fails to expand the soul's capacity for spiritual receptivity. In all praying, remember that sonship is a gift. No child has aught to do with earning the status of son or daughter. The earth child comes into being by the will of its parents. Even so, the child of God comes into grace and the new life of the Spirit by the will of the Father in heaven. Therefore must the kingdom of heaven, divine sonship, be received as by a little child. You earn righteousness, progressive character development, but you receive sonship by grace and through faith. Prayer led Jesus up to the supercommunion of his soul with the supreme rulers of the universe of universes. Prayer will lead the mortals of earth up to the communion of true worship. The soul's spiritual capacity for receptivity determines the quantity of heavenly blessings which can be personally appropriated and consciously realized as an answer to prayer. Prayer and its associated worship is a technique of detachment from the daily routine of life, from the monotonous grind of material existence. It is an avenue of approach to spiritualized self-realization and individuality of intellectual and religious attainment. Prayer is an antidote for harmful introspection. At least prayer, as the Master taught it, is such a beneficent ministry to the soul. Jesus consistently employed the beneficial influence of praying for one's fellows. The Master usually prayed in the plural, not in the singular. Only in the great crisis of his earth life did Jesus ever pray for himself. Prayer is the breath of the spirit life in the midst of the material civilizations of the races of mankind. Worship is salvation for the pleasure-seeking generations of mortals. As prayer may be likened to recharging the spiritual batteries of the soul, so worship may be compared to the act of tuning into the soul to catch the universe broadcast of the infinite spirit of the universal Father. Prayer is a sincere and longing look of the child to its spirit father. It is a psychological process of exchanging the human will for the divine will. Prayer is a part of the divine plan for making over that which is into that which ought to be. One of the reasons why Peter, James, and John, who so often accompanied Jesus on his long night vigils, never heard Jesus pray, was because their Master so rarely uttered his prayers as spoken words. Practically all of Jesus' praying was done in the spirit and in the heart, silently. Of all the apostles, Peter and James came the nearest to comprehending the Master's teachings about prayer and worship.